Hey guys, coming at you today with a super special keto dessert recipe. It's actually from a Patreon supporter's fan request, and it is a Lancaster Sour Milk Cake with Chocolatey Frosting. It's super moist and delicious, and can't wait to share it with you guys. So let's get started. Welcome back. If you're new here, thanks for joining me. My name's Alicia and I'm a sous chef with a sweet tooth. And here we make delicious keto pastries, many from my time as a pastry chef. And my goal is to make them the best keto pastries possible. If you enjoy this content, please hit the subscribe button down there. I'm coming at you every Saturday with a new keto dessert. This fan request was actually from my Uncle Gary out in California. And the funny thing is I had this recipe from my mother because I wanted to make a keto last year, but I had a lot of epic fails because I did not know a lot about keto baking back then. I stuck with ingredients pretty much spot on, but of course our sugar is going to be keto sugar. And then I upped a lot of the ingredients because we don't get that magic lift and fluffiness from gluten. But for the flour, I just used a mixture of coconut flour and unflavored whey protein and a little bit of xanthan gum to give it structure. The xanthan gum is optional, but it keeps it sturdy so it doesn't fall apart on you. My grandma made this all the time for them as kids, and my mom made it for me. I have all my sifted dry ingredients here. I'm giving them a good whisk. I'm using powdered erythritol monk fruit blend. And then for the wet ingredients, I'm doing buttermilk, but because we can't have regular milk, I'm making my own. So you take a tablespoon of vinegar, put it in your measuring cup, and then you fill it up to 1.25 cups with whatever nut milk you like. I am using macadamia nut milk today. What I did in the other recipes was I used unsweetened vanilla almond milk, and that really amped up the vanilla flavor of this cake. And you're just gonna wanna stir that around. Then I'm actually gonna pop this in the microwave for a couple of seconds just to warm it up. Warming up all your wet ingredients helps give your eggs lift, and that helps us get a nice fluffy layer. I'm also gonna melt 10 tablespoons of butter. My oven is already preheated to 350 degrees, and I already have my pans with a liner and greased, ready to go, because this comes together super fast. And if you wait too long, the coconut flour gets super thick and you can't spread the batter as easily. So I have that ready to go. And I have a scale standing by because to even out these layers, it's the easiest to measure them. Same thing with all your dry ingredients. It's super easy just to weigh out your dry ingredients and not fiddle with scooping your dry ingredients, leveling them off. It's a pain in the butt. So I always suggest $15 on Amazon. It's the best investment you'll make. And we're just gonna pop in our buttermilk for like 20 seconds. You just want it not cold anymore. I got 5 eggs at a room temperature, 2 tablespoons of vanilla extract. You're gonna want a spatula to be able to scrape everything out into your pans, and a whisk, because after you whip this up with a hand mixer, you're gonna wanna just whisk it with your regular whisk. So excited to have more cake. You're just gonna beat these until they're about double in volume. Once you're double in volume, just start pouring in your melted butter, and then your warm buttermilk, and lastly, your vanilla extract. My whisk is shooting it everywhere. That's why I hate this thing, but my hand mixer's even worse. Okay, once that's all together, get ready, because you're gonna mix this up and pour it right into your pans. So you take all your dry ingredients. See, I still had some coconut flour hanging around. You want it all evenly distributed. You're not gonna mix for too long, so make sure everything's pre-mixed well. All at once, dry ingredients into the wet. And mix, mix, mix. It starts out looking like a regular cake batter, but as it sits, it thickens up really quick. But if you do it nice and quick, you're not gonna have any lumps in there. About 520. And you always wanna add dry to wet, because that way you don't have a bunch of dry ingredients sitting at the bottom of your bowl. 520 in there. Pretty darn even. Put a couple more in there. About 524. Last time I still didn't do it that quick, and I had to spread it out with the spatula. But you wanna make sure it's nice and even. all the way around. Now we're just gonna pop these into the oven. They do take a little bit longer than the original recipe because we have more batter. It takes 20 to 24 minutes. And the most important thing with these, make sure they're even in the oven. Like if one's further back than the other, it'll bake unevenly. You gotta have it even and centered in the middle of your oven, and halfway through, turn them and you rotate them to try and get them to bake evenly. You wanna make sure you test it with a toothpick, make sure it comes out clean, and feel the top of the cake to make sure it's firm, because I thought one was done and I pulled it out and you can see it was kind of not set in the middle and it sunk and wasn't cooked all the way. I'll meet you back here when they come out of the oven. Okay, these guys are out of the oven. They look awesome. So press down on them and they're firm. So I'm just gonna set these aside on a cooling rack for now. And in about 10 minutes, when they're cool enough to handle, I can pop them out onto a rack to cool completely. My uncle said it was a Lancaster Sour Milk Cake with a really chocolatey frosting. So we have no idea why it's called Lancaster Sour Milk Cake, just so you know. Chocolate frosting, I actually have this one from my mother. And she labeled it Mom's Always Fail Icing, because my grandmother tended not to measure things. So the apple don't fall far from the tree, because I'm very similar in that aspect. 1 tablespoon of margarine did not seem enough. And then she just had warm milk. But I have a recipe that I made. I tested it a couple times. So we're going to be following this loosely. The whole thing is very simple. Butter, powdered sweetener, which I'm really bummed. I bought the allulose monk fruit powdered sweetener. It did not work in this. And it was grainy still. I could not get it smooth. I'm using a powdered monk fruit erythritol blend. I already sifted it. And then cocoa powder. I do a Dutch dark cocoa powder because I want it really chocolatey. A little bit of vanilla extract. Some warm milk. We're going to add it in at a tablespoon at a time until we get the consistency we want. And then just a pinch of salt. And I'm using salted butter too, so that it's not overly sweet. Start off, we just cream up our butter till it's nice and fluffy. And stand mixer is usually the best option for frosting. I did use my handheld immersion blender the first time I made the frosting, and I ended up with cocoa all up in my nose because it was just too crazy. Now down in the recipe for this frosting, I put 2 to 3 cups of powdered sweetener. Buttercream frosting is very simple to make and it's very customizable to the sweetness you prefer. I cut down the sugar from the original recipe because our powdered sweetener is considered twice as sweet as regular. Just after each addition, you want to scrape down the sides and get it all incorporated. But it's crazy to me that people are selling keto frosting. Like, it is super simple to make. Now, I pre-sifted that. It's so much easier to measure after you sift it because there's so many lumps in our powdered sweetener. So I didn't even measure that out. I just sifted a bunch. Still pretty buttery, so I think we're gonna need a little bit more. Like I said, this can be made in any amount you want too, and any flavor. If you just want vanilla, you're just gonna add some vanilla extract and maybe a little milk to thin it out, and you got vanilla frosting. This is 3/4 of a cup. He said it was really chocolatey, so I wanted to make sure it was really chocolatey. This start on very low speed. Cocoa powder goes everywhere. Now it's obviously going to look too thick here because still need to add in vanilla extract and some milk to make it spreadable. We want this really chocolatey, so add in your vanilla extract and just add in a tablespoon of milk at a time. It's already turning into frosting. You can also just use warm water too, which I've done that in the past for cakes. Scrape down the paddle a bunch. Looks chocolatey. Put in another tablespoon. Almost forgot the pinch of salt. Looks good. We still need a little bit more liquid, I think, though. And a better spatula. This one is not stiff enough. Bring out the big guns. We'll add in the rest of that guy. Maybe a tablespoon of water. And as you let it whip, it will get softer and more spreadable too. Okay, frosting is good to go. We're gonna get this into a bowl and I'm gonna show you how to pop out your cakes out of the pans. I have some chilling already, so we'll get to frosting these. I'm gonna show you the way I would do it if I was working in a pastry shop. Yeah, our cakes are cool enough to handle, so we're gonna just take our offset spatula and go around the edge of both of them. Completely unstuck. There we go. Cake number 2. That. Look, they're like spongy and soft. They hold together. They're not falling apart. They are like a vanilla cake. Can't wait to slice in and frost them. I'm gonna get set up here and we're gonna get to frosting. Okay, welcome to Cake Decorating Cam. These are my cakes. After they were cooled, I wrapped them completely in cellophane and refrigerated them. You want them nice and chilled in order to cut them and frost them because it'll just make it quicker and easier. We're gonna cut our layers. Now you can just do a layer like this, frosting, another layer, frost the whole thing. That is perfectly acceptable. That's what we did as kids, but in the pastry world, we like to make ours a little fancy. So I'm gonna hold the top of this and I'm gonna go around with the knife. It really should be on the other side of this, but go right in the middle and just keep going around in a circle. You can see the line that's forming. You wanna do that first to kind of get where you're gonna go from there, and make sure you keep your knife level and just go all the way through your cake. Keep following that line that you made until you go through the middle, and that's it. So we're gonna have a 4-layer cake. That one is done. Set it aside for now. So it's easier usually to get like down to see like where you're cutting so you can see that you're in half. Keep following your line that you made. Go all the way through. And that's it. It's super soft and moist inside and not super crumbly. Like that's the amount of crumbs I would have for a normal cake. There's no extra crumbling. You got nice air pockets, so they're nice and soft. I'm telling you, these taste like regular cake. It's awesome. I was so happy when I got this result. Okay, now for our platter that we're putting it on. So whatever you're serving it on is what you want to frost it on. I usually take a little bit of frosting and put it right in the middle. I'm going to put this guy down. Make sure he's centered on your plate so it looks nice. And then I am just going to plop on some frosting and spread it out. Because we're doing thin layers, you want thin layers of frosting too. You can go all the way out to the edge. We're frosting it with this on the outside. It's not going to look any different. Try to make it even. And you top with your next layer. And repeat the process. Top it with your last layer. Always have a less crummy layer on top. Like you don't want the inside of the cake for your top. Now this part is something that a lot of people won't mention, but it's something that is super helpful to make a really nice looking outside of your cake, and that is doing a crumb layer. This is where it doesn't matter how it looks because you're just gonna refrigerate it and you're gonna add more frosting on top of it. So you do a super thin layer, like you can still see the cake through it, but this prevents all the crumbs from coming into your last layer you're gonna do. Make sure all your layers are even here. And take it down to the sides. This is what we would do as one of my jobs at the pastry shop. My first year in a pastry shop, so I got to crumb coat things, but I didn't get to finish cakes. And try not to get any crumbs into your nice frosting that you're going to be using for the outside of your cake. Just want to make sure all your holes are filled. Make sure when you're putting it on a platter, it's something that fits in the refrigerator too, which I'm going to have a problem fitting this in, I think. There you go. We're all smooth all the way around. Popping it in the fridge. Okay, the cake has been chilling for a while. I made up another third of a batch of frosting just to have enough. But if you didn't do the 4 layers, you probably would have had enough frosting to do just a 2-layer cake, frosting in the middle and frosting on the outside. But I had to be a little extra, of course, so I had to make it more complicated. But to frost the top, you want to put on more than you need on the top. And you are just gonna work it around to the edge. Because you already have a layer on there, you don't need a thick layer on top. Or on the sides for that matter. So as you work it towards the outside, you'll get the overhang. And you can use that to go around your sides. Make sure it's even too. At this point, you can warm up your spatula to smooth it out super nice, but you want it nice and smooth on top. I'm usually a perfectionist. I'm gonna try not to be this time. There you have a beautiful 4-layer chocolate cake. I am just going to do a little bit of decoration down around the edge. Obviously, if you want to make more frosting, do a white. You can write on it also. Okay, so we're just fitted with a star tip here. I'm going to take it and do a little shell like that. All over the edge of the bottom there, just to make it look pretty and finished. I'm just going up, down, up, down. And there you have it. Now, another thing you can do, so this cake is 23 net carbs for the whole thing. You can mark your spots with little rosettes. If we do it into 12, it would probably be easier. 12, it'd only be 2 grams of net carbs each. So, little rosette there, a rosette there. And then you divide each of these into 2. 1, 2. There you go. 12 slices. So when you go to slice, you slice right in between the rosettes. We are all cleaned up and we are ready to slice into this delicious looking cake. I cannot wait. This is the first full cake I made. I got a hot knife and hot water. I want this to slice like butter. I'm going to take a 1/12 of this. This is going to look so pretty. Ready, Freddy? Look at that. Oh man, that look good. Anybody will be impressed by that at their party. Like an airy, soft cake. Look at that. That is an impressive cake if I ever saw one. It's time to try. Having childhood flashbacks right now. That's delicious. And no one would know that's keto. It doesn't taste like keto at all. Even the frosting has no cooling because of so much cocoa powder in there. That cake is soft and airy, not dense and dry, no graininess. It is amazing. I'm so excited to have this. It's like it's my birthday. I'm really excited to bring you this recipe, and I really hope you guys will enjoy this for yourself for your birthdays. Thank you to my Uncle Gary for being a Patreon supporter and choosing an awesome recipe for me to make keto. Now I have cake for birthdays and it's gonna be delicious. Just like childhood. I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, please hit the subscribe button down there. Hit the thumbs up. Share with all your friends and family that are keto or having a birthday soon. And I will be back with many more keto dessert recipes. Bye guys. Hold up.